Okay, it's 1800. We'll call this meeting to order. I don't have my gavel.
All right. You want to do a roll call attendance just
Sure.
for the record?
How do I do that? Just everybody say their name in here.
Yes.
All right. Juanita Carnes here.
Margaret Duty here.
Stan Stremko here.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hopefully next month, depending on how everything's going with COVID, that we can resume regular in-person meetings, but that's, we'll see how that goes. It was just, we'll get to that later. Anyway, so just a few housekeeping things before we get to public participation to review and approve. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I should confirm that Cheryl's actually on this because, oh yeah, she's in. All right, we're good. So review and approve the minutes from the July 13th, 2022 meeting.
I make a motion to approve the July 13th minutes as written.
Second that motion.
All in favor by roll call, Juanita Carnes.
Margaret Duty.
Stan Stremko.
All right, good. The next thing is the contract signature authority. We have to do this every year so the board can vote on who is being given the authority to enter into contracts with vendors through the city. So this does actually need to be voted on. So if hopefully you could make a motion.
Okay. Margaret or Stan? What are they making a motion for?
Yeah, so
Yeah, make a motion to approve contract signatures for Chairman Juanita Carnes and Health Director Joe Rouse.
Second the motion to approve contract signature authority for those two individuals.
Okay, all in favor by roll call? Yes, Juanita Carnes.
Yes, Margaret Duty.
Yes, Stan Stremko.
and just to follow up on that real quick, we don't have a lot of contracts in the health department that we have to enter into. Those are ones that are the bigger ticket items, like the contract for some of the waste hauling and recycling. Those are all transfer station related. A contract that we have with Ty and Bond for environmental monitoring and services. So there's not a ton of them. I mean, Margaret, it's not, we're not signing contracts every day. So it's not a big burden. All right. And the next thing is the standing orders. Thank you, Stan. You already came in, signed off on those with Deborah, our supervising public health nurse. So now we can get going for flu clinic, which will be, I believe, next month at the senior center. We're doing sometimes there. It's probably posted on the Council on Aging website. I don't have the dates in front of me right now, and that's very ill prepared of me, but the information's out there. So that's that. Next, Juanita, if you want to call for public participation.
Hey, do we have anybody here for, yes, I can see the hand up already. 3 minutes per person, and we'll start with Jane.
Hi, my name's Jane Oxon. I live at 341 Steiger Drive in Westfield. That's up in the Shaker Heights neighborhood.
Mhm.
We're having a new development proposed off of the side of Munger Hill. It's called Nathaniel Hill. It's 20 building lots. I've reviewed the plans and I understand your board is sort of has a say in the safety and the health of the 20 lots. I'm not sure if you normally do this, review the plans, but there's a lot of red flags for me. I'm just going to hit on the points that are safety and health. There's 20 homes. They're all proposed to have sewers, except for 4 of them would need a special pump to put it in the direction of the sewer pipe. It ends up They're gonna need a sewer easement through the condos, the Shaker condos. And talking to Jeff Gamelli, the sewage plant, we have no capacity to take in any more Westfield residents. And we only have capacity to take in Southwick. So he's saying we cannot take in 20 homes all on sewer, and they must all go septic, which they would qualify because they're in a rural zone. Next point, the drinking water. It's proposed to come off of Valley and go over the Springfield pipeline. We heard from Fran Kane, DPW, that now Springfield Water and Sewer wants it to go underneath their main transmission lines. And he said, city is not going to go for that. And so I don't know how they'll ever get drinking water. Next point is the construction entrance. This is a 20-foot easement they're having through the condos, the Shaker condos, right off of their parking tar. They're proposing that they get a 20-foot easement in all the trucks entering and exiting the side of the hill, which is 27 acres. All the trucks will go in and out through the condos. The condos do not know this. They think it's only a sewer easement, but it really is a construction easement. It says temporary construction easement. I went to Rob Levesque, the land planner, and he said, oh, no, they're going to go over the pipeline. They're going to go over the pipeline. And I said, okay, then remove this construction easement off of the maps, and I'd be fine. He said, no, he's not going to do that. Okay, next problem. There's a riprap. It comes over the Springfield pipeline. That means a big 24-inch pipe. It's dropping stormwater from the Shaker Heights neighborhood onto this land. It's causing a big erosion. If you haven't seen what the riprap and all the erosion has done to the land, literally ripped off. It's 8, 11, 12 feet deep. It's about 20 feet wide. It zigzags down the side of the hill on this land. And Rob Levesque is proposing to just cut off 0.96 of an acre and leave it for the city. But the city, Fran Kane, has said, no, they're not going to take on that land. So I do think there's a major problem with safety. There's actually a little kid's bicycle thrown in this riprap right now. If these houses are built, 20 homes, they're going to get to walk right onto this riprap, fall right down 12 feet, play in the brook. Big safety issue. The trees, they're saying they're going to leave the trees anywhere from 100 to 200 feet as a buffer, but the houses will own it. And I said, don't leave those trees up. They're going to fall right on the house, because the house would be squished to the front of the road with their whole rear, all trees. And people think, if it's my property, I'll cut down my trees. So I am looking out for
3 minutes. I'm sorry.
okay.
We can
but
make we can make a motion to extend. Are you near wrapping it up? If you
Yes. I only
Okay.
got that was my last sentence. My last sentence is safety for the condo residents, that, all these trucks will be whipping right by their bedroom window and their park, where their cars are parked. So that was it.
Thank you for all that information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next is Jessica. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I noticed the conversation before the meeting started, and you guys had mentioned that we would be going into live meetings in the future. That was actually one of the topics that I wanted to discuss today. I was curious on when that was going to happen, because I saw there was a time before COVID that you guys actually met in person. So I'm just kind of curious, I can go to a school committee in person, I can go to city council in person, but we've been a long time before being in person. And I know, I think that was also mentioned at the beginning. Joe was talking about how you guys are going to conferences, or he's going to conferences, and some of the nurses. So if you guys are going to conferences in person, and I know you guys went to some meeting in June, I want to say in person, I don't understand what the issue is to do the Zoom meeting, to not I don't know if you want to do like Zoom and in person. I'm just kind of curious as to, why we're still doing Zoom. And then, what I'm kind of thinking is this like a perception thing to keep the COVID narrative alive? I know people retain information a lot better when it's visually presented. So by visually going through like the motions of a Zoom meeting, is it a way to kind of like reinforce that, COVID's still like the main concern on why we can't meet, but you guys can go to conferences and stuff like that? And then the last thing I just wanted to bring up was an article from the Brownstone Institute. It's called Naked Absurdity of Global Public Health. And basically it talks about COVID-19 showed up on us how willing many people are to join the harming and denigration of others to defend positions they know are illogical and untrue. To see one's own profession indulging in such behavior is difficult to reconcile when that profession is in some ways entrusted with the welfare of others. But we should not be surprised. We are all human, and this promotion of global harm will continue as long as it reaps local rewards. People do not easily tire of wrong. They get accustomed to it. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else for public? Oh, Shaker Farms is all
Hi. Can you hear me?
yeah, faintly.
Okay, I put my microphone. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm concerned about the Nathan Hills.
Can you stop and identify yourself? All we see is Shaker Farms.
Okay, I'm Nancy Kodowitz, 66 Zephyr Drive, talking about Shaker Farms Country Club. Okay, I'm concerned about the Nathan Hills Estate project that is going on, because I'm not sure if the Board of Health knows the danger that's involved to the community. There's a bunch of rickrack that the stormwater has created, and the caverns are over 12 feet deep, and there's trees that are ready to topple over, and every time it rains, it gets worse. I'm not sure if you have received the plans yet for that development, but I would urge your department to go take a look at the problem that is already there. And I'm just concerned because if you have children probably that are going to live in those 20 houses, they just have to go over there. And if it rains, somebody's going to get drowned going right through the brook there. Only when it rains though. Can you hear me?
We missed a whole lot of what you said.
Okay, I can just, you can hear me though, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I have a soft voice. So I'm concerned because there's stormwater runoff that's going by the Nathan Hill Estates that's created deep, huge caverns that are over 12 feet deep in some areas. There's trees that are ready to topple over. And I'm thinking if you have kids that are going to be living in those 20 houses, somebody's going to get hurt. In addition, when it rains, the water gushes out of there. All the runoff from Munger Hill Estates, whatever that is, I don't know how many houses are involved in the runoff. I think it's sort of like 85 that are connected. The water comes out so fast that it's caused big, huge caverns. And I'm just afraid there's a danger to the community health. And I think that the health department, before they sign anything off on this thing, better go check it out because it's a danger.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any
Anyone
comments?
else for
Any
public-
comments?
Anyone else for public participation? All right, we can go on to the next on the agenda.
Okay, so we are still seeing numbers under public health, the COVID-19 update. We're still seeing the counts come in every Wednesday from the PCR tests. This is not including home tests, obviously. That, our numbers are not, they're been holding steady throughout the whole summer. which amounts to approximately about 50 to 60 cases per week. And like I said, those are the ones that are the PCR tests, they're not the home tests. So just to put that into perspective, since June 1st to now, the average has been about 66 cases per week. And like I said, it ebbs and flows, but it hasn't really gone down significantly. As opposed to, again, perspective, back in February of this year, we were up to 270. And then later in that month down to 124. It did start to go down. We hit a low point in March, actually, where we had 19 cases. And then for whatever reason, and this is the mystery of COVID, it started to go back up again in May. And it went up to pretty much, a 6-month high in mid-May with amounts of cases per week. The vaccination percentage is pretty much staying steady at 64%. So we may have gone up a little bit since the last time I reported it out. It's still not where we want to be, but it's definitely slowly but surely getting better of fully vaccinated people. So I just wanted to throw that out there and say, we're still tracking it. We're still contact tracing. We have numbers that they're not alarming necessarily, but still very interesting in the sense that we don't seem to be going down, especially at this time of the year, where in the past we have seen a drastic reduction in cases in the summertime. And the last number I have, which was from September 7th, representing the week before at 51 cases, it really didn't even maybe touched on the surface of back to school, but hadn't manifested itself fully. So we're keeping an eye on it, just to let you know, we're still entrenched a little bit. It's now manageable through the nurse's office to deal with the COVID contact tracing and surveillance. So any questions on that?
I would say in the clinics I work in, we're seeing a definite uptick in the last week.
Mhm.
So we're still seeing plenty of COVID in my shop. Thing is, people just aren't very sick from COVID itself. The BA.5 variant is behaving much more like a regular coronavirus and targeting the cells of the upper respiratory tract versus the lung tissue, like the original COVID and then the early variants. So we're seeing virtually no pneumonia. Everything's up here, and so folks and that's a real blessing.
Mhm.
That's great. Good to know. We've been kind of hearing the same thing, but we obviously we're not boots on the ground and get our information from DPH. So, but that's consistent with what the reports we're getting from the state. Not to say we're going to stop doing any sort of, surveillance or contact tracing, but, and we're hearing that also, with the nurses and the reports of symptoms and effects of the virus. So nonetheless, the numbers are the numbers, and we'll keep forging ahead. So if there's nothing else on that, we can move on to the next exciting announcement.
Ready and waiting.
All right, guess what, everybody? We
Free tests.
got test kits for COVID months ago, free from the state, that we handed out to residents for free, and we're all out. But the
Yay.
good news is, whereas back then, we got about 7,000, I think at the last meeting I said 70,000, I didn't mean 70,000, I meant 7,000. We got 7,000 free test kits. We got rid of all of those. Guess what? Coming
Okay.
within the next month, we're getting 21,000 free test kits from the state in conjunction with the federal government. So we had a table here at City Hall down by the elevator in the basement where it was all giveaway stuff. It was COVID test kits. It was a lot of stuff that we got from a stockpile through the National Guard in the very beginning of COVID. Masks, sanitizing wipes, hand sanitizer. Those things are all going to be back. So I know there's a lot of people, they've been coming into our office and kind of upset that we don't still have the free giveaways for the test kits especially, but they're coming. So within the next few weeks, we should see that table in the basement reappear with all kinds of magical free things, including I ordered a whole bunch of these thermometers for people. So hopefully we'll get hundreds of those that people can take and monitor if they're symptomatic. So that's the good news. It's not often that I get to give good news out, that we're getting more test kits. Everything's free. People can avail themselves. Come to City Hall. We'll put the information out there on the Facebook page, website. We'll probably talk to Peter at the Westfield News, and so all is not lost. We will be getting more test kits.
Excellent.
I also just found out you can go to the pharmacy with almost any insurance and get 4 free tests. I actually got 4 boxes that had 2 tests in them for free. They just bill it to your insurance. And they said it's almost every insurance does that.
That's great.
Good to know.
While supplies last.
Yeah. Before they expire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they extended that out till January. So give a little time. I wanted to just report back about the overdose awareness vigil that we had. A resounding success, surprisingly. We had very little time to prepare for it. We don't have a lot of resources now that Kathy has moved on. Kathy Coutinho moved on from our drug task force or core to another venture, and good for her and wishing her the best. But we had to, it was kind of all hands on deck to pull this vigil together. It went really, really good. And I got to give our office manager, Kim Sinkowitz, a lot of credit. She spearheaded the thing, and it was a great night. So we didn't drop the ball on that, which was good. Not that we have anything else going on, but it was great to see everybody out there. A much needed event in the city. It was actually Overdose Awareness Day, so that was a national thing. And it was actually kind of emotional. So I don't mean that it was surprisingly emotional. Obviously, it is an emotional occasion. At the very end, I had to give up and get up and kind of give a thank you for coming sort of speech. And what a dynamic that is when you're in front of a crowd of people who are mourning the loss of someone visibly. And you can't help but to get emotional yourself. So I think it was well received. It was much needed, and we will continue to do that. And to piggyback on that, as far as the overdose opioid issue, I spoke to the mayor today. That's going to continue to remain under the health department, and I think that's an appropriate way to deal with it. We did have some desire to farm it back out to the mayor's office, but I think it's clear this is a public health issue that we can't just push aside. We can't farm it out, and we have to keep it. And we'll deal with getting the resources. Right now, the mayor is dealing with consolidating funding from multiple sources, settlement money, grant money, community impact fee money, all into one place so that we can form a program or a subdivision of the department that will be actually effective in treatment and education. So like I said, I just talked to him this morning. This is still pending, but we're not going to let it go. And I spoke to that at the vigil, where I said at the end, this is here, it's not going anywhere, and we're not turning our back on it. So we're going to bolster our efforts And we're going to get the resources we need, and we have the administration behind us to do that. So only thing I asked was get the transfer station away from me so I can focus my
Mhm.
attention on this. And it's a give and take, but we'll get to that later. Any questions on that
No.
part? Okay.
Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, it was surprising how well everything went. And from not just the health department, I mean, this was involving multiple agencies within the city. I mean, gas and electric, DPW. We had volunteers that were there that gave an inordinate amount of time to the effort. And it was definitely a labor of love, but all hands on deck, and it went well. So the next thing that I have is actually an action item. You'll have to vote on that. Now that we're kind of segueing out of the 24/7 COVID response on our end, that we are fully staffed, and we have our full-time, we have 2 full-time nurses in the health department, 1 full-time at the senior center. And we have started, and I hope to be able to do more of this, branching out and doing more public health programs, initiatives, and activities. So we started doing TB testing again. And you all know about that we've done it for years. Right now, there's a need to increase the cost of the TB test to the person. We currently charge $10 for a TB test. If we extract everything out of the file and don't waste anything, we might break even with that, with the $10 cost. Any abnormality, we're going to be losing money. So the ask is for the board to consider raising the TB test fee from $10 to $20. And it hasn't been raised, by the way, in the whole entire 24 years that I've been here.
That sounds
So-
reasonable.
So we just need a vote on that if anybody wants to make a motion to increase the testing fee for TB from $10 to $20.
Joe, just curious, what kind of volume of testing are we talking?
Well, we've started off, if this is a soft opening, Stan, so we haven't really put it out there. There is a great need from Westfield State for their people to get TB tested, and they come here first. We've had to turn them away in the past. Right now, we're seeing, since we've informally started to integrate the program again, maybe 2-3 a week. We used to do way more than that. And-
Fully ramped up, just a ballpark, and I won't hold you to it, but I'm just curious.
So fully ramped up from what I can remember when we were all in on it. And Margaret may be able to speak to this as well because she was here. But I would say we would do 6 a week. Somewhere in that.
Oh, I would have
neighborhood.
said even
Even more than that.
10 to 12. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
you get a refugee family and that's 8 people right there. So,
There's that, right? Exactly.
That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And it's 2 visits.
Right.
Right.
And it hasn't been raised in 20 years.
No.
Right.
So if anybody wants to take that on as a motion from increasing the fee for TB testing from $10 to $20, that would be effective immediately.
And that's your recommendation?
Yes, sir. And part of the reason for that is that the money that we generate from the TB testing goes into the nurse's revolving account, which allows them to buy the supplies. If that revolving account ever runs into the red, then we have to suspend the program. So we don't want to go, full steam ahead and get this running and then have to pull back on it because we don't have enough money to fund it.
Makes sense. Motion to approve the fee raise for TB testing from $10 to $20.
Seconded. All in favor by roll call. Juanita Carnes,
Margaret Duty.
Stan Strumko.
motion approved.
All right, thank you. That's going to be huge for us. It's just one more way that we can get our feet wet back into the community. Also, with our DOT and things of that nature, where we can start having that interaction. Hopefully we don't have to pull back on that, but in this case, it won't be for financial reasons. So, next is I put in there for inspectional services. I just wanted to give you an update about, we rarely talk about the hard work that's done with our health inspectors. And it usually only comes to you guys when there's an issue that, you need to be aware of for whatever reason, or you need to vote on a condemnation or, something of that nature. But I just want to let you know right now, in this city, we have a very vibrant code enforcement group, which includes our 2 inspectors, Crystal and Tommy, as well as myself, because I did that for a long time and I can't quite let go. But I have the, what is it, FOMO, fear of missing out. But so in conjunction with the building department and their new hire of a property maintenance officer, we are taking care of a lot of the problem properties. So our inspectors here have been fantastic. It is at this time of the year sometimes all encompassing. So other things, other routine inspections, we're always trying to put out fires. We're trying to get better at preventing them. So this is a good step in that direction. I just wanted to say that the complaints are coming in, they're being dealt with, and there's a whole group. We meet once a month, and it's police, it's fire, it's building, it's health. It could be conservation, whoever needs to come to the table on a particular issue. So with this administration that is here right now, I can tell you code enforcement is a hot topic, and it's nice to see that in the community. So that's what's going on with that. This might be a record all-time board meeting here. I don't know. I always said I wouldn't bring transfer station things to the table for you guys, but I just need to, there's a method to my madness. So stick with me for 1 second. I know you don't care about the ponding issues, the drainage issues, the compactor, the scale, the landscaping, and the flare. That almost rhymed. But I have been spending an inordinate amount of time up at the transfer station. 50% of my day is spent there dealing with either issues that need to be immediately dealt with. And I'm not talking about landfill, I'm talking about transfer station. Or things that come up that need improvements or work done. Like, for example, I use the scale. We have a scale up there to weigh trucks. Not necessarily residents, but we have a scale house and we have a scale. And we used to actually weigh the trucks when they were leaving the facility, hauling out our resident trash. And that was when we were actually tipping everything up there. The scale hasn't been working for years. I'm trying to get it back working. For what? I don't know. But that was a request of the mayor, and therefore that's what I'm doing. We only have one working foreman up there right now, not the typical 2 people that we usually have. So it puts a little bit more of a demand on me to coordinate other necessary activities that need to be done, because that one guy can't do everything. So now I'm involved with, driving landscapers around to show them what work needs to be done. The mayor is interested, and I agree with this, to have a trash compactor up there. I met with Elm Electrical. It's going to be very expensive to do that, but we'll see what the appetite is with the administration to get that going. Point being, when I went to the mayor and I asked him to send the care, custody, and control of the transfer station to DPW, it was because of this very reason. When I'm handcuffed dealing with solid waste, and I don't mean environmental issues, the environmental issues are mine, they're ours. And we can't get away from that per Mass General Law, but I'm not a solid waste manager. I don't pretend to be, and I don't ever aspire to be. And so as long as I have the transfer station under my purview, I'm going to spend 50% of my time doing that and not doing public health. So he's totally in favor of the transfer, like we voted last time we met, transfer of the care, custody, and control over to the DPW. That got jammed up in the city council for reasons I understand, and nothing's ever easy in government. This is just how it is. You got to take your bumps and bruises and move on, and I'm nothing if not persistent. So this is going to move ahead and with his blessing and endorsement, but we just got to iron out a few little things. The council was resistant to transferring control over to DPW because there isn't the permanent DPW director in place right now. So I honestly don't think that should be the factor. That they have competent people in that department, more than competent people that can take this on. It'll make everything simpler for everybody, including DPW, and provide them with additional resources that they don't have now. So that's my soapbox about it. I just wanted to let you know that if there's any criticism about the health department or moving forward with initiatives for public health, I only work 35 hours a week, and I don't want half of them to continue to be dealing with the transfer station. So we're working on that. And then hopefully it'll be a whole new day. And Margaret, you understand how much time that takes. I mean, just when you were here in your job in dealing with the billing and, you know, all the invoices and all the work you had to do related to the transfer station, it was a predominant role. But there's a kind of little light at the end of the tunnel. I wish it was bigger, but it's like this.
So technically, they're waiting until a director is hired and then it should happen? Is that
So
correct?
I would hope that it would happen before that. I spoke to the mayor about it today, and it got, once it didn't get approved by the city council, it got kicked back to the subcommittee of city properties. So that's where it sits right now. To bring it back out in front of the council, I don't know exactly how that happens. Probably from the mayor requesting immediate consideration for care, custody, and control again, and hopefully their perception would be different. So
Did they have any other objection besides that there's no director?
no, I think really it just, from everything that I saw in that council meeting, had to do with timing. And it had to do with just because the health department wants to get rid of this doesn't mean that DPW wants to take it or is ready to take it. So it's still just a back and forth. Just for the record, nobody other than the council, because of the timing, and if that's how they feel, I respect that totally. I understand it. Everybody else that's part of this equation totally agrees that this makes sense. There's not one other entity. I spoke to the city property subcommittee before the last meeting and explained the whole thing. But between DPW, the mayor, the health department, and anyone else concerned, there's not one party that's saying this doesn't make sense. Why would you put trash under public Department of Public Works? So it's just, you know, I feel like sometimes it's one of those things that's just gone on so long that it's hard to make that change. It's everybody's comfortable with the health department running the transfer station, and it's just that with the resources on our end and the way now that we should be moving, and hopefully everybody acknowledges that, and I don't mean you all because I know you do, but the general public acknowledging that there's way more of a demand for focusing on public health, because now they know what we do. And I can't manage an event like COVID for 2 years and run a trash facility.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I did it, but I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's me. That's it for that. Any questions?
No.
No, for you, Joe.
Thank you. So one thing going along with that is at the last meeting, I forgot to specify, be more specific about the language of transferring the care, custody, and control of the transfer station to DPW. And this is why. It's all one parcel. The landfill and the transfer station are not separated by a boundary. So the law department had asked if we could do another motion, or actually they asked initially, I just forgot to do it, so that's bad on me. But I would like to have a revised motion for transferring care, custody, and control to DPW, but not including the landfill or the related properties with respect to methane reclamation, drainage, or there was one other thing.
Environmental monitoring.
Yeah, the environmental monitoring that Ty and Bond has to do for the off-gassing at the monitoring wells. So it shouldn't really need to be said because DPW is not going to step in and do that stuff anyway. But just because we want it on the record to say transfer care, custody, and control to DPW with the exception of the cap landfill and the properties related to what I just mentioned. So so we would probably want to revote on that.
Okay, so I would make a motion to transfer the care, custody, and control of the Trust Street Transfer Station to the Department of Public Works. And that's not to include the cap landfill, related property used for environmental monitoring, drainage, or methane remediation.
I second that motion. All in favor by roll call, Juanita Carnes,
Margaret Judy,
Stan Strumko.
motion approved.
Thank you. I was gonna talk about the Medical Reserve Corps. I know I mentioned it last time, but there's been some, within the last 48 hours, some moving parts that have kind of muddied the water, not in a bad way, but just in a way that I think we're progressing nicely. And this isn't really a Board of Health function anyway. It's kind of, the MRC is a private, not private, but they're not a quasi city agency. I just happen to be on the board and I would like you to know what we have for resources in the event of an emergency. So we're just working on, with the exit of Ed Mello, we're working on getting that back together again. And I was hoping to give you a report tonight that we were ready to go. But for the better, we have had some, just today, I had some conversations with people that will maybe even put us in a better place. So next month, I'll divulge that to you. I know you'll all be sitting on pins and needles
I'm
for that
intrigued.
announcement.
I'm intrigued, Joe. Come on.
Okay, all right. No, I can't spoil it. I can't.
All right.
I don't want to ruin it.
So I heard from Tommy the update on the property on the ponds that we've been following for years.
Yeah.
I think those guys would be interested in hearing it if you want to tell them.
So this is, I
And I
believe,
think Stan missed the talk about it at the last meeting. It came up again.
was it 216.5 Belanger Road?
The Boviers.
Oh,
Right.
gosh.
Well, in a nutshell, I don't know the specifics like Tommy does because I had to avail myself of that. And I had a conflict of interest on the property. Because my mother actually is friends with the wife and owner of the property. So I kind of had to push away from it, but I've been hearing that that has progressed nicely.
Yes.
And that it is, and I got to give Tommy a lot of credit. He did a ton of work on this to make it right and not in the interest of trying to get somebody to get away with something. It was really It needed to be put under the microscope. It needed to be, we needed to be advised by the Department of Environmental Protection. And that's a lot of legwork, but it finally turned out that there is an approved plan for a septic system at the property. It's kind of an alternative system. It meets all of the setback requirements. It meets, everything in compliance with conservation. So I think we're at, and Juanita, I mean, all of you remember this property and
Yeah.
the trials and tribulations. So
Mhm.
we're finally at the end of that road. There really isn't much, there's
They bought a whole nother lot in
right.
order to be
Oh.
able to,
Yeah.
Ah,
So finally, the Boviers they'll get their dream home on that property, and I'm happy for them. Again, I can't speak to it as well as Tommy could, but you know what? Maybe we'll have him on when this is all a done deal, and then he can kind of explain all the intricacies of it, because it was a huge consumption of his time, the department's time. But I think we finally got to that nice happy medium where I won't say everybody's happy, but everybody's satisfied that there's nothing amiss. So good job to him.
Tell Tommy, congratulations.
Yeah.
He did what nobody else could do.
Oh, I remember seeing the file on that from back when I first heard about it, and it was like this
Yeah.
thick, you
uh-huh,
know?
yeah,
So,
Back to the Future, man, oh man.
yeah, it's always nice when these things resolve, through hard work, obviously, but there's other properties that have been the same way, and as you all well know, over the years that I drive by them all the time and go, oh my gosh, am I so glad that that's done.
mhm.
1291 East Mountain Road.
Yes.
1090 Southampton Road.
Uh-huh, yep.
Anyway, all right. Well, that's all I have. And I just wanted to, Juanita and I were in touch about the remote versus live tonight, and we'll just keeping our eye on these numbers. But I think that next month, unless something crazy abnormal happens, that we should be back together.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Great. Does anybody have anything else before we close the meeting?
No.
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Motion to approve the meeting, approve, and to end the meeting at 18:47.
Second.
Thanks, everybody.
You have to do a second to close the meeting.
Okay, second.
Okay. All in favor to close the meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Dan Stremko, yay.
Yay, yay, yay.